So hello everybody and welcome to our Work Smarter Not Harder webinar. Today we're going to be talking about TCM, Transactional Content Manager. Before we start, just want to let you know that that this webinar has been recorded for posterity, and we will be and this video will be available in our portal. Also, on the right side of your screen, there's a Q&A question, so feel free to add any questions you have among this presentation. All right, so talking today to you, here with us is also Rule. He's a BP Channel Sales and Operation from Bimster International. And Bimster International is our partner, which we rely our TCM technology. Rule, could you say hi to our audience today?
Sure. Hello, Federico, and hello, everybody on the line. Happy to be here. So yes, as Federico mentioned, I'm responsible for global business development of the EBA platform, which is the technology platform that underlies the Savantis TCM solutions. So I will be elaborating a little bit on some, case studies. In my job, I get to meet a lot of our existing customers worldwide, so I'll try to exemplify some of the things that Federico will be mentioning in this webinar through some actual, customer examples. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Rule. And last but not least, me, Federico Veitia, will be, I'm the product manager of TCM at Savantis Group, and I'll be taking you throughout our webinar today. So talking a little bit of the agenda and what are we going to be covered today. We're going to do a little presentation of Savantis, who we are as a group. Then we're going to define what is a TCM, why does a TCM, it's important, where does a TCM apply, and how does our technology work. Then we're going to spend a little time presenting you a short demo. And after that, we're going to share with you some success stories from our customers. And by the end of the session, we will spend the time on Q&A answers. Okay, so who's Savantis? So Savantis is a SAP value-added reseller, and we also offer some other complementary products, such as a transactional content manager and mobile apps. And we bring value to our customers by delivering, enable, and support. So the way that we deliver is that we help you with your project from A to B, installing all the capabilities for your technology, and then we also bring value by enable you, and then we do this on two ways. We help you and deliver all the knowledge so that you could be able to use your technology, and we do that by training or staffing any services. We also support technology and application management device. And at the down of this slide, you can see that here are some of certifications that can qualify our service. All right, so jumping into our webinar today, I would like to start by defining what is actually a TCM. And in order to do that, I first need to talk a little bit of the segment market of enterprise content management, or also known as ECM. So the definition of an enterprise content management is a systematic collection and organization of information that is to be used by a designated audience. It could be a business executive, customer, etc. And the definition for a transactional content management, or also TCM, according to Gartner, is a system of record for managing processes related to this document. So with that being said, we can see that a TCM is also part of this segment market, but it gives you the ability of controlling or managing the documents that live inside our company and adding different business rules into that. So for us, a TCM and the TCM that is the technology that is behind our TCM, it's throughout Bimser, and they have this powerful solution named EVA, which we are a value-added reseller partner, and EVA is a proven TCM platform used by European and American companies. You can see a few of the companies that that we work with them in the past. So jumping into why a TCM is important. We feel like a TCM is really, really important because today companies are working on optimizing processes and trying to do better the job, which we believe it's actually something really good. The problem with this is that multiple times they don't have the tool which they can rely to these processes, and then they end up doing very slow and inefficient processes dominated by a lot of paper and documents. And a lot of the times we can feel related, like the picture there. We feel like we're moving fast, but we're actually just riding a turtle. Also, a TCM can help you with complex and approval process. And with personally, I believe that this is the sweet spot for a TCM. A bunch of times, just going through all the different processes inside the company could be a nightmare. There's a lot of approvals that need to be run through. There are a lot of signatures. You need to jump maybe from one department to another, and sometimes things are just complicated. So a TCM could help you to to outline those processes and do something way much simpler to achieve your your objective. All right, so also it's a TCM applies, and it's really, really important because we believe that the information need to be at the right time, at the right hands. So and by doing that, we need to kind of like cover all the information and that it's need to be secure and all the information that need to be compliance to mitigate risk. So today's companies are facing challenges where they need to find out where the information is and how to distribute it on the right manner so that they can feel secure about the sensitive information that it's been shared, but also they need to understand and need to comply with industry's requirements. So just to share a little bit, some numbers that are out there says that 40% of the companies feel like the biggest challenges they deal with is to find the right document to demonstrate that they are complying with this industry. And 90% of the companies struggles with management document to demonstrate that they are aligned to the regulations on the industry. So continue with why a TCM is important, and this is something that is very important. Every company out there is looking to make reduce cost, and we want to help you with a TCM to go in from burning money to actually saving money. Just a quick fact from our paperless project, we know that the average office out there uses 10,000 sheets per year, and for those 10,000 sheets, 40% end in the trash. Ru, I don't know if you could share with our audience today some example of how customers for TCM could actually save money. Okay, it seems like we're having some difficulties out there here with Ru, so I'll continue and then jump. He could jump on and give us some example.
Hey
Oh,
Federico, I'm here. Yeah, sorry.
don't worry.
So let me give you an example. This past year I was chatting with one of our European customers, which is a French bank, Société Générale, and one of the processes that they were struggling with in terms of the efficiency and the time it takes, to really complete it is, a consumer loan request. So, as every bank, does, right? You can obviously request, a loan or credit, with that bank. And, a competitive advantage to the bank is the ability to process that request as quickly as possible, going through lots of checks and balances to make sure that, you are able to give credit or loan to a specific customer in a reasonable amount of time. So when Société Générale started to look at a TCM, they documented their as-is process, and that process to basically, go through a process involving nearly 100 steps of checks and balances. Took them on average 20 minutes to complete, and lots of manual steps were part of those 20 minutes. With the implementation of TCM and with the implementation of the EBOP platform, they were able to pretty much automate most of those 100 steps, that were involved in evaluating and approving that consumer loan requests. And as a result of that, they reduced that 20 minutes by 50%, being able to, on average, process an application in 10 minutes instead of 20 minutes. And therefore, that saved them costs, operational costs as well, because they could do many more loan processes per day with fewer operations users. So I think that's a good example of how a TCM can both save money as well as automate complex processes.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ru. Continue a little bit with our presentation here. Okay. Also, it's very important at TCM because the TCM can actually help you to integrate your systems. So we understand that a lot of customers out there, they already have multiple systems, but maybe the problem is that they are not connected the dots there. So a TCM could help you actually make the interaction with the systems out that you currently have in a way much better way. So just to share with you guys some numbers out there, it says that 35% of the systems that companies are using out there, they're fully managed without that information. So it doesn't really necessarily mean that you don't have the information. The only problem is that it's not well connected, and a TCM can help you to improve that. Also, a TCM, it's important because it will give your company the visibility and increase the productivity. Sometimes our employees feel like the guy on our left, they feel like they're drowning in paper, they don't know where the information is. So a TCM can help you to move from the left to the right into a guy that is actually know exactly where the information is and can work way much faster and efficient. Quick numbers for that we find out there says that PricewaterhouseCoopers says that 50% of our employees' time is spent looking for documents, but only 5 to 50% of their time they spend up in actually doing something with those documents. Also, employees spend 40% of their time retrieving documents. So we feel like we need to give the employees the ability to work on what's important and not spending time finding documents. Okay, so I'll continue with our agenda. So now that we already covered why a TCM and what is a TCM, so we want to explain to you where does a TCM could actually apply. And we feel that a TCM, as we already covered, it applies to multiple industries and basically to processes that are highly manually and then they have a lot of paper. Ru, could you talk to our audience on where does a TCM could apply?
Sure, Federico. I think typically a TCM really applies, right? As you mentioned, the definition of a TCM is really, the automation or system of records of, managing process-related documents. So, documents, paper is pretty much prevalent in most of the lines of businesses that we have in our typical organizations, right? I mean, the most common one, which is, very typical, an applicable use case for TCM is obviously the process of, AP automation, right? Companies, accounting departments receiving into the organization invoices, either through paper or through fax or through EDI, and, basically handling those invoices, routing them through an approval process, validating them against master data in your ERP, and then storing them in a centralized location where you can easily retrieve them. That's a real good example of an application in the accounting and finance line of business. But quite frankly, the example I gave from the Société Générale loan processing side. That's more on the sales side. Think about HR, where a typical application of a TCM could be the automation of your expense reporting, right? So instead of actually filling out a manual form, and attaching all of your receipts, you can actually go to a web-based form built upon a TCM that allows you to automate, basically online fill out your expenses, and that gets then routed through various approval steps, and then, if you want, integrated into your finance application for expense reimbursement. So pretty much any line of business, within any type of industry that is experiencing growth, that sees processes changing, and it deals with a lot of process-related documents. I think those are the applicable areas for TCM.
Definitely, and I think this next slide could also help us understand a little more on how and where does our TCM. Could you help us also explain this slide to the audience, Ru?
Yeah, I think this is the typical example of a PTO request, right? So we all know if we don't have an automated system, we've worked in these companies where there's no automated system, and you basically, you're trying to plan your Thanksgiving holiday to go to Hawaii, and you really want to get those days off, but you need to get approval of them. So you're sending that email to your boss. And the boss is busy and has 200 emails in his or her inbox and pretty much forgets about it. So you're going to have to follow up with a phone call or another email. The boss finally approves, then it has to be forwarded to HR, and somebody within HR has to check and make sure that you actually have enough PTO balance, get that approval, and then actually enter it into the HR system. So if that's a manual process, which it still is for a lot of companies, it's really time consuming and can be frustrating for a lot of the parties involved. With TCM, you automate this whole process, right? You basically go to a web-based form, you fill out your leave request. You can actually make that web-based form integrate into your HR application, so it can pull up, the employee's, HR details and actually see whether you still have PTO days available, right? So then you go and fill out your request. As you submit it, it gets automatically routed to your manager, and you can even set rules around it to remind the manager to actually approve this form, in 24 or 48 hours, whatever you want to do. And once it's finally approved, it gets pushed to HR, and HR, has an integration to their HR application and can get updated, directly in such an application. So you're basically taking the whole manual work out of this process. You're automating, the flow of that document and that information, and you are eliminating manual rekeying information into third-party systems. And that's one of the common, ways to apply this TCM.
Definitely, Ru, and most important, you're not missing that trip to Hawaii. All right, so I'll continue with our agenda. I want to jump into how our technology works, and our EVA transactional ECM works. The way that it works, we break it down into 4 layers, and these 4 layers, I'm going to talk a little bit of each one on the next slide, but the 4 layers are, the first one is that we're talking about just one platform. The second layer is that we're talking about a solution building block. The third one is where the solution actually lives, and the fourth one is the user interface and integration. So the first one, it's like we talk, it's one platform, and here I'm going to briefly describe a little bit of the technology on which we rely for our TCM. So the language for this technology is .NET. It's a very easily upgradable and a scalable solution. It's also based on a SOA architecture. It's also a low-code solution, and when I mean a low-code solution, what I'm saying is that the hard coding is very low, and the bigger percentage of our solution is basically on a drag and drop. So that help us to create the workflows and the business rules on a way much faster manner versus hard coding everything. It's also based on one database layer, and one repository content where all the information is gathered. Our second layer is the building block solution, and this is where the muscle of the TCM is. Because here's the part or the area of the solution that we're going to actually find all the components so that we can manage and create business rules around those documents. And this will be kind of like the difference between only using an enterprise content management versus using a TCM. So the first building block that we have here is the workflow or business process mapping. Like we already talked about it, this is going to be the area where we are going to be able to create these workflows for our business purpose. The other one is the document management content repository, which is actually the connection with the first layer. The other one is the electronic forms. This will help us to eliminate the paper and then just jump into a digital world. The other one is the document image capture, which is better known as the OCR. And this is a very important component of the solution because this is actually where we're going to integrate the information that it comes outside the company. For instance, could be an invoice that it's been submitted throughout an email or something that is in the mail and we can scan it. And then by doing that, we digitalize the information and then just push it into our solution. The other component is integration where we're going to manage and we're going to set up different rules for our users. The other one is the record management where we're going to keep track of the multiple versions of the document. And the last one is the dashboard so that we could actually present some visualization of where's the document and how it's been treated. This third layer is based on where the solution is going to live. Like we already talked and mentioned, the TCM applies for different industries and different departments. So it could be for accounting, finance, so that you can manage your POs or invoice. The other one could be for IT, create a help desk, or human resource, like the example that Ru just says, for new hiring, maybe. The other one is for procurement. You can create a vendor there for sales and some other part of your of your organization. So this layer is where the actual solution is going to live. And then on the fourth layer, we're going to talk about the user interface and the integration. And as you can see, our solution works on multiple screens. It goes throughout a PC, a tablet, or a smartphone. And the integration with of the TCM is actually very, very important because this is where we feel like we connect the dots with different information that is out there. So it could be integration with your ERP system, could be SAP or other. It could be with your CRM, the integration with your email, or whatever other system where the information needs to be taken. So now, before we jump into a demo and give you a quick demonstration on how EVA and our TCM works, I want to kind of like explain a little bit and walk you through the scenario that we're going to show. So the scenario that we're actually going to show is a PO-based automation process. And then what we're going to do with this invoice is that we're going to split the cost of the total into different cost centers. So we're going to take you by 3 big steps. The first one is going to be the vendor sending an invoice to the organization. The other one is showing you our OCR component, where it's going to be scanned information, go through some routes of validation, and finally, once the PO is approved, we're going to archive this information in our system. So just so that you have this clear, the example that we're going to show you is a PO for buying some computers. So without further saying, let me jump and have a quick play here on our demo. So here I'm going to type the email for the receptor of our PO. In this case, I'm attaching my invoice here. And just adding a little information into the email that I'm submitting. In this case, I'm using our cloud so that you could receive this information. So now that I've been submitted, here's our application for OCR. I'm going to click on the document that it's been submitted to us, and then just click it, accept it. And this point is very important. So at this time, the system is taking all the information of the PO and scanning and digitalizing all the information. At this point, it's also applying some business rule that we already defined. So when I open my invoice here, I can review it, see that everything's fine, and then I can do a double check on that. And also on the right of the screen, you can see that the information it's been processes already. And well, this is something very, very beneficial, because what we are seeing right now is that we are eliminating all the manual processes of typing something, and then we're saving time by adding some business rule into that. So if I click on archive, once I'm super sure that my invoice is correct, I submit it, and now by seeing the green check, it says that everything's been okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as part of our workflow into our TCM web interface, and I'm going to log in as the account manager. In this case, our account manager is going to approve the invoice that's just been submitted, and this person is going to do the split of the cost of the invoice. So Nicole is our account manager. So I'm just going to click here and log in. And then on the left side of the screen, you can see that there are multiple options that we talk about briefly on how our TCM works. In this case, I'm going to open the workflow management, click on the approvals, and here for our demo invoice, I'll have some notifications. The one on the top is the one that's been recently submitted for review. So she's going to open our workflow management and see the invoice with all the information. And since she already knows that this total cost need to be split because they buy this computer and they want to send the cost to different cost centers, he clicks in he makes a double click on the material code, and then he opens the cost center. This is something really good because as we see, the information for the cost center is actually being taken from our ERP system, in this case SAP. Now that he selects the cost center, I apply a percentage on how I want to split this total cost. And then I add another one to fulfill the 100% of the cost that it's so 50-50, and then we got a total percentage of 100. I click it here on OK, and then I'll continue to scroll down, see that everything's fine. And here I'm going to show you something good, because as I talk about it, we can set different business rules according to your needs. If I click on approve and there's missing some fields, it's going to let me know. So in this case, we're missing the purchase owner. So the purchase owner of this of these new laptops is going to be, this case, our friend Manny. So if I say search for Manny, I find it here. He's our specialist in IT. I will assign this to him. And now, once it's assigned, I can see the workflow history. Only for purpose of the demo, we're showing this, but on the actual system, you're not going to be able to see all this information. But as you can see, our workflow down here, we can keep track on where it is by following the green arrows. So the green arrows are telling us that our workflow is not ready and that it's missing some approvals, in this case by Manning, the purchase owner, or we can create different rules, like another manager could approve this, but in this case we're going to continue as Manning. So I log out and I'm going to do a quick login here as Manning. Find Manny, and then just log in. So here we're going to see something interesting. As we already talked, security is important. So for Manny, he has a different view. He doesn't have all the tabs and all the information that Nicole has. So he's going to receive this approve, and here we have his notification. If we click on this, we'll display the invoice, and he could do a quick check if he's agreed with everything, and if he feels like everything's okay, he could just approve it, or you can actually add some feedbacks. Either if he rejects it or approve it, say like, okay, I'm okay with what I'm showing. Then if I scroll down a little bit more, I just click here on approve. And now it's running out our workflow. And it's saying us that the operation it's been success. So as we can see our flow history, we got everything on green. And if we follow the flows, the workflow here, we can see that our workflow based on our business rules, it's already been completed. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch systems, and I'm going to show you how, since the business process has already been done, how this information is actually sending and being pushed to the SAP environment. So I'm just gonna click here on our transaction so that I can find my my invoice. Here's the invoice document number, and then if I continue, it's going to display the information of our invoice. So everything's already on the system, so there's no need for retyping. This is very good. And then if I attach, go to attach list, I can see my document here. Now if I double click it, it will show me my invoice. So basically this is something very interesting because it's helping us by eliminating a lot of retyping and avoiding a lot of errors that could happen along the way. So just want to take you for a very quick step-by-step of what we have shown you guys. So the first thing is that we scan and we integrate the information via an email. Then we use our optical character recognition to integrate that information so that we can go into a digitalized information and set up different business rules for that. And then we walk some validations. And once everything has been approved, we send it to our content repository and archive this information. So rule, once we're ready to show our audience our demo, and they have a better understanding of what's a TCM and where it could apply, could you share with our audience some of your customer success stories?
Absolutely, Federico, and thanks for that demonstration. That looked really good. Let's start with a customer of ours that actually just recently went live with the EBA TCM. This is actually Nissan, and the part of Nissan that basically does the marketing, the distribution of cars to dealerships, etc. So sales, marketing, and distribution side of Nissan. You know, Nissan came to us because they had some issues from a financial reporting perspective primarily. So they were struggling each month to in a timely manner, really enter all of their vendor invoices into their ERP systems. And by the way, you know, in their case, they're running a Microsoft Dynamics, you know, ERP. That was really a challenge for them because they would get lots and lots of invoices, thousands of invoices, typically sent to them, you know, a few days before month ends, and those all needed to be, you know, manually approved, and then subsequently in half of the cases entered into the system. I'm saying half of the cases because they are receiving today and also before EBA invoices through two main channels. You know, either they were receiving them electronically through an EDI type of application, or they're receiving them as paper-based invoices, right? So you know, that process, you know, to be able to really get everything into the system so that they can report up to their you know, regional and global divisions properly was really challenging for them. And then the other big challenge was the fact that, in their current environment, they weren't really able to do anything, on a mobile device in terms of approvals or routings, and that was something they wanted to change as well. So EBA TCM was implemented at Nissan in the beginning of the year. They went live in I believe, April of this year, with a number of applications of processes of TCM. Specifically, in their case, they did the invoice side, they did contract management, they also did some purchase requests, automation of EBA. But let's talk about the invoices here. So after they were implemented EBA, now they could basically have complete visibility into where all of these invoices are in their process of approvals, right? Because even if they came in electronically, now they have been basically replicated into the EBA system and maybe routed for various steps of approvals through that EBA systems. And if the invoices actually came in as a paper-based document, they are now able to scan that, enter it into the system, and again, the invoice is visible from the time that you actually put it into that system. So when vendors call to follow up on, what's going on with the status of my payment, if finance operators within Nissan can easily go into the system and give an accurate update. But most importantly, by really automating this process of entering invoices, by automating the process of, having these approval routings, workflows set up electronically in the system, and then subsequently also, posting those invoices into their backend ERP. Nissan has been able to shave off 3 to 4 business days on average from their month-end close, which has been huge for them, right? Because they now are able to much quicker close their books and provide much more accurate reporting to their regional headquarters and their global headquarters, which makes them much more compliant with, the Japanese version of Sarbanes-Oxley, which is called JSOX. So that's been a major win for Nissan, just on this invoice automation process. And then the other thing that actually their general manager talked to me about was the fact that they really like the ability to now be able to approve invoices, from their mobile device. And, the first time they used it, they were actually, boarding a plane to Dubai, and they were looking at their mobile device and were basically able to approve multiple invoices from vendors, with a click of the button, which was usually done, by going through a stack of forms on their desk, and had to obviously be in their office to be able to do that. So that's been a really big win for Nissan. And this is one of the applications of EBA that really relates to kind of the finance and accounting side of the house. To switch sides a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about a use case more on the sales and marketing side of organizations. Let's talk about another one of our customers, which is AstraZeneca. I'm sure all of you guys know AstraZeneca. It's one of the larger pharmaceutical companies here in the US as well as worldwide. Very well known by some of their products like the purple pill. Being in a pharmaceutical industry, these companies are very heavily regulated these days, as you know. So they really have to have lots of checks and balances in place, amongst others related to how they market and sell their products to physicians and doctors, right? And the way that pharmaceutical companies typically do that is by organizing hundreds and thousands of what they call physician or doctor meetings every year. And in those meetings, basically, doctors come together to discuss, new products and treatment methods and medicines, etc., to an audience. But this process of inviting these doctors, right, as a pharmaceutical customer, of making sure that there's a regulation, for instance, that each doctor cannot speak more than, 4 or 5 times a year. Keeping track of who has been invited for what conference, how many times they've been invited per year. Then also keeping track of how much money has been provided to that doctor in terms of a speaking fee, or in terms of a hotel reimbursement, or food reimbursement, or even an Uber cab reimbursement, right? All of that information. This used to be a manual process for AstraZeneca. Can you believe it or not? I mean, AstraZeneca is a large company. They run many major applications, including SAP, ERP, and Salesforce, and what have you. And I just jumps to my mind, when I had a discussion with a director of IT, he said, like, to me, Rule, we have all of these major systems, but even with these major systems, there are still, on average for us, 40 to 60, processes that kind of fall between the gaps, either because the ERP cannot really handle workflow as well as it should, or it's not really very well integrated with all of these other applications. And for these 40 to 60 processes, we are using the EBA TCM platform because it gives us the perfect platform, to optimize these processes from the beginning to the end. So in short, right, what AstraZeneca was able to do is to basically put this whole process of organizing, and tracking physician, or doctors' meetings on the EBA TCM. And as a result, they are now fully compliant, when they get an internal audit or external audit that wants to understand, why a certain doctor, or, if a certain doctor has, how much money has been spent on a certain doctor, all they have to do is go into their EBA system and look it up, and that information is right there, along with who has approved, the invite, who has approved their expenses, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a major win for AstraZeneca in terms of being able to comply, with, both the industry as well as their internal policies and regulations. Back to you, Federico.
Well, thank you, Rule. I think both are great success stories. Particularly, I like a lot that one from Nisa, where you're saying that the first approval was throughout the mobile device in the airport. This, I think, is just a good reflex on how people can optimize and do something more simpler and have time to spend into some other tasks. So thank you, Rue. Continue with our agenda. We're just going to the last part of our demo, and first of all, we want to say thank you everybody for joining us today, and we're just going to spend time addressing some questions that have been submitted throughout our time since we started this webinar here. And I got a few questions here. The first one is from Tim from Exton, who's actually asking me, how fast can we build a process like the one we just saw on the demo? All right, well, thank you, Tim, for that question. Yes, a workflow like the one we just showed you, it might take from 2 to 3 business days. Like I already mentioned on our description of our TCM, the platform is based on a low code. So it's basically just drag and drop. Once you have all your business rule defined, it's going to be pretty easy to create some new workflows. So hopefully that gives you a better answer. Another question that I have here is asking me if every time we want to build a new workflow, do we need to use a partner or we can build it ourselves? Well, I think that's a great question because one of the benefits of this tool, again, is that it's very easy to use. It's very friendly. So once we do an implementation, you can basically take over this tool, manage it yourself, and create new workflows and start using your tool in different areas on your company. So one of the things that we try to do is to give you a little training on how you can use it so that you can maximize the use of this. This has been something we recently did with one of our customers, and they're pretty happy with it, and then now they're expanding into different areas. Also, another question that I have here is, can a TCM can be delivered on the cloud? Okay, so this question comes from Rachel, so thank you, Rachel. This actually sounds pretty good. It's a good question because a cloud is one of the new things out there, and the answer to that is yes. We could deliver either as a software as a service, or if you prefer, we can deliver on-premise, so we can work both ways. Let me see what other question we have here. Rule, maybe you can help me answer this one.
Sure.
Our attendant says, what is the difference between open text and our TCM?
Well, that's, we get that a lot. Yeah, what's the difference between us and open text? But I think the honest answer is, like, from a functionality perspective, the two platforms are, can do many of the same things. But where the difference really comes into play is the fact that, EBA TCM is just so much more easy to implement because of the drag and drop, user interface to help you create these forms and processes. The fact that this is a .NET platform, so it's a C# code base. So even if you do have to do some coding, those are generally available skills in the market. Whereas, with OpenText, that's a proprietary software language. So you need to find the right consultants with the right experience, and they tend to be typically pretty expensive. And that's another really key differential between our platform and OpenText. We're very affordable, especially for mid-sized companies, mid-sized growing companies, with a couple of hundred employees that have ERPs in place, that want to just find a simpler way to, to manage workflows, to centralize, and protect and secure, their documents and, corporate information. I think those are really, the three, if I were to say three main differentiators with OpenText, we are, simple to use, you've seen the user interface, for the end user, it's a very straightforward process. We're easy to implement, so we're not talking about, month-long projects here. We're talking about days or maybe weeks, depending on how complex of a process you want to implement. Not more than that. And then thirdly, affordability. If you ever gotten a quote from OpenText, you know that maybe the software is not that expensive, but the implementation of it is going to be typically 3x. Well, with EBA TCM, the implementation is never 3x. It will always be very affordable, and it's very easy to learn this tool as an end user. If you're a business analyst, you know business processes, you have that general understanding. Our teams can teach you how to work with EBA in a few days and build together with you your first application or process. And from there onwards, a lot of this you can do yourself. So those are some of the main differentiators, I would say, with OpenText.
Well, great, Rule. I think that we just recently received another question that I hopefully could give you a better feeling. They were asking, like, what is the difference? What difference your product from from other offerings? So yeah, so I think that not only those points that you just mentioned apply only for OpenText, but only for some other tools that are out there. So yeah, I think user friendly, affordable, and very high speed of implementation. So continuing with the rest of the questions here, let me see. What type of company normally acquires a TCM? So I think it's also related to the answer that Rule just sent to us. Because a TCM applies, or especially our TCM applies to mid-sized companies that are on a fast growth and they experience for some reason highly manual processes. So we already covered this by saying that this is not only or it doesn't focus on a particular industry or a particular pain point. You could apply to anything that it's out there or that you're struggling out there in your company. So I got another question here, Rule, that maybe you could help me with. It says, how difficult is to configure users for our TCM?
That is actually a very simple thing. So it requires probably us, showing you once, in the administration model, where you can actually either bulk upload new users or connect it to, another, employee system of record that you may have, or one by one you can just add those users and set up new passwords or change passwords, etc. I mean, it's like very user-friendly technology. So a couple of minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Rule. And also, I think this is also very related with what you just said. This next question, so maybe you could help me expand on this. They're asking how customizable is our TCM platform.
Well, I never really like to use that word customizable, right? Because that implies that you're doing a lot of hard coding, which is actually really not the case, right? What you do with the system, right? It's a platform. You're building applications and processes, and you're doing that by configuring those, workflows, those electronic forms and the associated processes. And yes, from time to time, you have to do a little bit of coding, right? If you want to pull data from your Microsoft ERP or your SAP ERP and push that back into that ERP, there's typically some coding, that you would have to do. So it's very flexible in that regard. You can integrate EBA TCM with pretty much any third-party database-driven system, whether that's an ERP or a CRM or some sort of a spreadsheet or any type of SaaS-based application that you may be running as a critical business application. So that's the beauty of it. It integrates into all of these different systems very easily. Allows you to pull information into an approval process. And once you have completed, an approval or review process, push that data back into that system. So in that regard, it's very flexible.
Exactly, and I think if we can outline a very good point, or one of our benefits of our TCM is that we're talking about only one investment with multiple returns and multiple benefits. So highly applicable to different areas of the business, and it's not necessarily for one industry. So I think that's one of our biggest strengths here. Let's see if we got any more questions. If they're coming up something new. So it seems like we already covered some of the questions that the audience has. The only thing that it remains to us is say thank you. We really hope that this webinar was informative for you guys, and we're looking forward to hear some of your feedback. Also, feel free to reach out of us. Here's my email and my phone number. So if you feel like you have any more questions, we will be more than happy to address them. So we appreciate your time, and thank you very much for attending our webinar.